So, hello everyone. Today we have with us Miss Mary, who is the owner of Call to Teach and a K-12 performance expert. So, let's dive into this conversation and let's get to know more about how she's helping schools and institutions rebrand themselves. So, hi Miss Mary, welcome to our podcast.
Hi,
Thank you for taking our time.
how are you?
I'm
It's
good.
okay. Oh, all right, let's do this.
Yes. So we would like to know that what got you into rebranding, and especially for schools. Like, what was your motivation behind it?
Okay, now there are two things that got me into rebranding. Well, one is my passion. I've always been an educator from the onset. I've always been in the school community, and it's always about enrollment, enrollment, enrollment. So now the main thing that brought me into rebranding, I would say, is a need to be different. The need to be different and the need to be visible. Okay, for schools to actually get people to see them, to patronize their services, they have to be different from the norm. Actually, in areas where private schools, the licensure for private schools are not difficult to get, everybody wants to get into the school business. So at the end of the day, what are you offering parents? What are you giving them? Are you just making promises based on the results you're seeing other schools doing, giving? So that is why I went into rebranding. That a school is like a doorway to the future. That's what I call it. Okay. So a school shouldn't just be business as usual. Every school must have its own identity. It must have something it brings on board. So that is why I went into rebranding. Let me talk to these school owners. Let's get things rolling differently. Okay. It doesn't have to be business as usual. That is why I went into school rebranding.
Great, great. The thing that you said that is very true that every school is going behind enrollments and increasing their enrollments, but they're not ready to identify what how they are placing themselves differently from their competitors. So on that
Mhm.
note, I would like to know how do you identify a particular school when you're working with them? How do you identify that this is their unique strength, right?
Okay.
Because
Now, in the process of rebranding, we do what we call a brand audit. Okay. Now, in doing a brand audit, we go through the different facets of your school, look at the things you're doing. We look at things like we actually do in the SWOT analysis. We do in the auditing. We do a SWOT analysis. Okay. We look at the environmental factors surrounding the school. What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? We look at all those things, these four areas, and then we go into your curriculum. What are your givens? There are too many things that go into auditing a school brand to know where they are and how they will move forward. We look at that. We look at the physical elements of the school. Okay, it's not just about the soul. I call the curriculum, the extra curriculum, the soul of the school because it's not just about what you have on the outside, which is the physical elements. We look at that too. Another thing we audit is the culture. What do you have as the way of life? What is the school known for? Okay, what is the perception of people? This we get this through polls, through feedbacks that the school have collected over time. Okay, and now what is the communication pattern, the interaction pattern in the school? Okay, what is the word of mouth value outside the school? It's a whole intense process which we use data that has always been in the school. Sometimes you find out that some schools don't have this data.
right.
Okay. Now I and my team have to take an extra measure to go out and get this. We have a strategy in place that we use to ensure that we collect this data because without it, you wouldn't know exactly what to do with the school when it comes to their rebranding at that very moment.
Great, great. um, that's very important to collate all the stakeholders that are involved in the school or in the institution because everyone plays a different role and everyone is
Exactly.
really important. So
Yes.
branding as a what do you call branding as a subject is sometimes, like most of the time I would say, not sometimes, is disregarded by institutions, right?
Exactly.
Because people, schools, especially owners, they don't believe that branding is something that is important because ultimate goal is enrollment, right? So
Yeah, I wanted to say something about that.
yes.
The word most times people miss it because when branding has the word has been overused over time. Okay, it's on social media, it's everywhere. But when we look at the concept of branding, it talks about the whole facets of your institution, the messaging, how people see it. Okay, so schools neglect it because they don't look at it from the best eye view. how do people see your school? It's the image your school carrying good enough to project what you want as a business owner, as a business, as an academic institution. So if it's not working, if that perception is not working, then that is where rebranding comes in. Sometimes you don't even have a brand, you're just a copycat. Then we have to start from branding. What is your identity before we even think about switching it up a bit? Does that make sense?
Yes, that makes complete sense because most of the schools, if they are locally, like if we say there are 5 schools in a what you call area of like 20 kilometers, all of them would do same thing, similar activity
Exactly.
involved in. So a parent would usually go to a school which has a better branding, definitely, even if they have the similar course, similar kind of staff, very good engagement, very good teaching. So parent make decisions based on a school that has a better brand reputation because
Exactly.
they think about the society. Like if someone asks in which school does the children go to, so it has to be a reputable school.
It has to be something that they can resonate with.
Right.
Okay. Yeah, your brand, when I was looking at what you told me, the brand has to be something that your message, sometimes I try to isolate the word brand, because sometimes when we use the word brand, it's like we're missing the message.
Right.
Okay. So your brand is you. Your brand is what you stand for as a school. Now, parents will always choose a school that they can understand what they stand for. So if their brand is clear enough, that's why I use the word visibility. If your brand, if your identity is visible, if it's
Mm.
in such a way that people understand what you're doing. Let me give you an instance. I always tell the story in my, I told it on IG, and I said,
Mhm.
I come from my mom was, I came from a single parent home. And at the point, my mom wanted to get the best for us. She wanted education that is not just go to school, get good grades. She wanted education that would expose us to the social life. Like she felt, okay, she was lacking in terms of helping us in mannerism, etiquette, such things. So she felt, what type of school will provide us that when her children actually come out and go to school, they will come out in the society standing out as educated people. They could speak well, they had good table manners. She didn't have a university education, but she was looking out for that. Okay. So it wasn't just any school. She had to find a school that had those elements. Now, it didn't mean that other schools didn't have it, but some of them might be better than the schools I went to or she chose for us. But what happened? It was a school that, through their culture, through their way of life, through their messaging, you could see clearly what they stand for. They're
Mm.
not just putting out curricular work, okay, maths, English, pass exams on their online platform or on their billboard. Their messaging was in clarity to the transformation they could give their learners. Does that make sense? So that is what branding is. If people cannot close their eyes and say this is what the school stands for, aside the curricula, if the only thing they know about you is, oh, your curriculum, IB, your national curriculum, British curriculum, that is generic. If
Right.
they cannot close their eye and say exactly what this particular school stands for, then you need a rebranding.
That's very true because even surrounded us, like you have joined us from US and we are from India. So in Indians also, a school would name themselves XYZ International School, but actually when
Exactly.
they go into the curriculum and everything, there's nothing international about it.
There's nothing international about.
So, yeah, like I've seen multiple schools that way. So their name just because it looks really nice sometimes. So that's why
Sounds nice.
sounds nice and it attracts parents, so that's why they pick up that name. So what would be like in your journey, you have worked with, I don't know, like 500 schools, maybe like more than that, I guess.
More than that.
More than that.
More than that at the end of the day.
So what are the three branding mistakes, like three top branding mistakes that you see that schools make, whether it's preschool, K-12 school, or whichever school, that top three branding mistakes that they make?
Okay, the first thing I'm going to talk about is something. It's something that people neglect, but it's communication. Communication. When you are rebranding, you cannot isolate the community you're serving from the whole process.
Right.
I've had over the years, now you're talking about my unique experience with schools. Okay. I'm going to go from there to conception. Right. Now, most times I've had school owners that say things like, oh, I started the rebranding process and I lost students instead of gaining.
Mm.
Okay. Parents do not trust me because XYZ. And I say, one, if you are moving from what you are to a better version, people don't know what you're doing. You're rebranding, you're changing. The process of rebranding brings a lot of things into play. Things like remodeling, staff change, trainings. There's a lot of things that comes into rebranding of a school. Now, if you are going through that process, you must communicate to the stakeholders that something is going on. Because if not, let's start with the teachers. The teachers who you're trying to keep
Mm.
will be upset. Upset in the sense that they would have a sense of insecurity. Oh, the school is going through this metamorphosis. They're going through this process. Would we still be good enough for them when they're done? Okay. Are they going to bring in a new team? And as human beings, you want assurance. You want job security. So you have to assure them so they don't start looking for other jobs, thinking that with this rebranding, it's going to come a whole lot of makeover and change that would overhaul their usage. Do you understand? Now, for the parents, some parents in your community are in your place because of some things you offer. It might be a small classroom. It might be your uniform. It might be the unique curriculum you have or your interpretation of it. It might be the cozy environment you have. There are other factors, there are a lot of factors that bring people into place. So you need to take a poll. When you start your rebranding, I know you as a school owner, you as a school board, you have things you want to change. You understand the process of rebranding very well, but your stakeholders, do they really understand what it is? So if you do not communicate to them, it might your rebranding process, instead of giving you the required results, might backfire. That
Mm.
is one thing I wish every school owner would consider. It's not just about you, it's about your community. Now, secondly, another thing I want people do not understand about rebranding or branding is that it's not the same, it's not a one cap fit all or one size fit all. What school A might be rebranding into would definitely, even if you're the owner of the same schools, the needs cannot be the same. A
Mm.
school might be rebranding their exterior. I've had schools that every time they hear rebranding, they're thinking of color, logo, and all that. And
Right.
I said, in rebranding, there are two, it's an in and out thing. Okay. We have the external and the internal. When we talk about the internal, I still use the word the soul of the school, which comprises the curriculum, your unique offering, what you're doing to sustain the kids. What do you do? The process that brings about the transformation that happens in your school. Okay. Now, if that transformation is not happening, then you have no business talking about rebranding in terms of your exterior. It might affect it, but that is not the major area. Okay. Your unique proposition has to be honed. We have to take care of it. You have to look into it. So if a school is thinking of rebranding, do not have a preconception of what it's about, because what you think is the problem might not really be the problem after the brand audit. By the time you collect the information and do your audit, you find out that what you're looking at is not even the problem. So rebranding is not just physical. It might just be as simple as changing of documentation that helps you in your reinforcement. Some schools are doing excellently well. They have good teachers, but the policy they have in place keeps creating problems, loopholes in the system. So in your rebranding, what you might be going back to look at might be your documentation, your policy work. Okay, so it's a whole lot. It's not just don't when schools always think of rebranding in terms of changing the facial look, the physical elements of the school, or training. Most people think rebranding is just train the teachers to act better. No, you don't put the teachers in a box.
Mm.
Okay, when you rebrand, it's a whole lot that stretches even to the culture of the school, that gets everybody to do the right thing at the right time and be in the same place as the vision of the school. So these are the things that I've found out that are a problem when that people misunderstand when it comes to rebranding. And then the last one is rebranding is not it doesn't matter how long you've been in existence, because some people, when they have schools that have been there for years, they think it's about experience, years of service. Oh, we've been here for a long time, so the community knows us and they should know what we do. Okay. Maybe you're standing there for a long time is making people come to you because you're tapping into um, the long years you've served them. You know how people seem to stick to something that has been there for a long time. Okay. But you're forgetting that the environment is also evolving. So
Mm.
rebranding also comes as a result of evolution in your environment. Okay, the changes, the trends, the change in trends, the change in the environmental needs tend to help make you understand that you need to move with the trends. If you need to serve a younger generation, if you need to be abreast with the current trends in education, if you need to produce global results, then you need to be in touch. You need to rebrand all the time. It's not about what you were doing 10, 20, 5, even 5 years ago. It's about what the world needs at this point.
Right, right. So, Miss Mary, very well you said that when it comes to some mistakes that people make, institutes make when rebranding, is they forget to take into consideration all the stakeholders. They might target their advertising or their positioning only to students, like only to kids, but not to the parents, not to the staff that's going to be teaching there, and also the trends that keep on changing. So
Exactly.
so they don't consider, and especially even in India, we have seen that schools use the years of experience in the field, that they have this many years of experience, but they don't necessarily brand themselves well in that area. So how do you think that in the digital age, definitely like 10 years ago there was no digital rebranding or branding for that fact, so how do you think that in digital age the branding has changed, and what are the metrics that a school or institute need to consider when it's come to branding?
Okay, I think you're asking two questions, right?
Yeah, okay, we'll just cut here and we'll just take one question at a time. How do you think
Okay.
that branding has evolved in the digital age?
Okay, that is interesting how it has changed currently. Initially, branding was just about the school, one-on-one, word of mouth, okay? Um, Sharing of flyers. It was just within the community and the people you could reach. Now, with the internet, with social media and all that, it has evolved to an age where it's not just rebranding your physical, it's about projecting yourself on social media. That way, you can interact with a much bigger crowd. You can reach your parents. Now, you don't have to wait for people to come to you or for people to see your marketing materials physically. Now, they can see it in the comfort of their offices, they can see it anywhere. And now, um, in this evolution comes also a little issue. Now, how do you project the messaging so that the people seeing it? Remember, when they come physically, they're seeing the children playing, they're seeing the children learning. You know, if it's on TV, you can do some things, the activities. Now, you just have to convince people through um, a clip, a video clip, through an online message that you are really valuable. Okay. Now, this is where branding comes in because you have to craft your messaging, maybe get a copywriter or get someone that would really coin the words. So the trend has come to a place where you have to be intentional in your use of words, in your use of pictures. Your content it has to be something that would make sense, that would you have to tap into the emotional wealth that you have. You have to be able to tap into how the psychology of your customers. I think that's what I wanted to say. The psychology of the people you're dealing with. Initially, they can come in and on their own they're seeing it. Now, in branding, you have to pay attention to the customer's journey. Where are they at this moment with their desires for a school? What are the expectations? And how do they think? The psychology of the people you're dealing with comes into play in branding. So you're not just thinking about what you want to put out there, what do they want to see? Okay, that is one part. Now you asked about I don't know if you have any question as regards to how branding is moving forward in the digital age at this point. Do you have something to say about that before I move into the metrics?
Yes. So we'll now next question is, how do someone measure, or what kind of metrics they have to look for when they're doing branding, whether it's offline, online, because branding is different from marketing, as everyone I guess know that marketing is very different and branding metrics are very different. So how do someone measure
Okay.
branding metrics?
Okay. Now, marketing is a reward for good branding.
Right.
Now, even without marketing, there's some metrics you can look into that would show you if your rebranding or your branding is successful. The first one is engagement.
Mm.
The moment your branding is on point, you're going to get engagement from your ideal clients because now your messaging, your outlook, everything about you resonates with what they're looking for. Now, if I want to drink water, you don't need to tell me, "Can come and buy water from me," right? I need water. So wherever I see water, I know that's what I need. So I will go to it. I'll ask you the price. I will ask you the packaging or whatever that I need to know to convince myself now. It's not you selling to me, okay? Now, rebranding or branding brings engagement. That's the first thing. When people start engaging with you, the parents are applauding, "Oh, you're doing it better. You're getting this feedbacks." Now, it can be positive, it can be a bit negative,
Mm.
right? They said people sometimes react differently to their pain points. When you touch a sensitive point in people, they will react. Some will be positive, some will be negative, but you will get a reaction from people, right? So when you start getting that engagement from the people, when I talk about the community in terms of the school, I'm talking about the parents, the students, and the teachers. Teachers like value. So when you are saying something that really, the problem of a school committee is a teacher's problem. Teachers want to be heard. They want people to see the work they're doing. So that is the first thing, engagement. Another thing is perception. Now the perception has to be positive. The word of mouth value increases. Okay, people begin to understand what you're doing. They begin to talk about you. It's still part of engagement, but now we're not looking at the negative. We're looking about the positive.
Right.
Now enrollment. Of course, at the end of the day, if a school brand is on point, people would want to be a part of you. So when your brand is okay, is doing well, why would people enroll with you? So most times I get asked the question like, why are you putting the responsibility of enrollment on school owners? Nobody should put that on themselves because enrollment is a chance thing. And I say, no, enrollment is not a chance thing. Like I always say, if I need to wear clothes, if I need to buy any product, think of any product you want to buy. Okay. If I want to buy a handbag that I can just take anywhere, I will go to the next handbag store and buy it, right? If I want to buy a handbag that everybody will talk about, that is valuable, they are still handbags.
Right.
If I want to talk about a handbag that when I pass, people will be like, "I know that handbag. I know the value. It's expensive." We're talking about now the social value. You want to talk about um, your rating in the society and all that. Then you will look for a designer's handbag, right? They're still bags. So that is how it is with schools and patronage. Once you are valuable, once people understand your messaging, once people can identify with what you stand for, they would come, they would enroll. Now, it depends on the level of people. If you're so valuable and you're so posh and your rating is up there, then it will bring better clientele to you, people that can pay you more value, that can pay more for your services. If it's not as high up there as people would want, remember we're talking about the environmental needs now, okay? If it's not really up there, you will still get people, but people that can afford your service or within that range of what you offer. So that is the main things you look out for a successful branding. There has to be enrollment, there has to be engagement, there has to be a better perception, a more positive perception of your brand. And I think there's something else missing. I think your academic output, your performance.
Mm.
Okay, we can't talk about a school without your performance. In as much as you're talking about your messaging, people are looking at what your output is. If your rebranding does not take into cognizance the performance of your students, then it's not wholesome, it's not complete. Because that is why they're actually coming. They want students that would do well, their academic performance will be boosted, that would progress to better schools and get admitted into bigger schools because the foundation you've laid for them is sufficient. So that too would help. If the academic performance is better than where it used to be, then you're doing something better. Okay, you put your house in order. Let me use that. You put yourself together. Those are the metrics we use to rate our rebranding if it was successful. Now, this is not a one-day thing. Some of these metrics are measured within a term or a quarter. Some are measured within the academic year, okay, to see how successful they are. But there are indications we look out for when we get into a school so that we can collect this information and measure the progress over time. We're not going to wait till 3 months, 6 months, or 4 months, depending on how the school runs, or the end of the year to find out if it was successful. No, we measure it. We come in from time to time to collect this information and find out if really what we did is working, if we need to tweak some things and ensure that it's working well for you, your brand is on point and giving you the required results.
That's very well put up, because everything needs to be measured. And one of the mistakes that schools make is that they don't measure those things, because student performance is not really measured. They would only display top 1% student maybe of their schools to attract, right? Their teachers' performances are not really graded. They only measure enrollment rates, right? They don't engage, like count, like how many walk-ins did we had, how many parents did communicate with us, through
Place teachers have left the school.
Sorry?
They don't measure the staff retention as part of their rebranding. Right. They don't measure all that.
Right. Staff retention is one of the metrics that is like just avoided or ignored, like in maximum numbers of school. They feel, okay, one is coming, one is going, one is coming. So they don't really measure that. So yeah, you have something.
I have something to say about that, Now, I know a lot of school owners might not agree with this, or some may, but I found out in the public sectors that now we're talking about this rebranding we're talking about rebranding when it comes to private schools, okay? But public schools, most times they don't, apart from the COVID time where all over the world we had mass exodus of teachers across different both private and public schools and all that. But they don't usually leave. You see them stay. Okay, why? I always say that sometimes, or not sometimes, all the time, people don't leave good jobs unless they have something better. People don't leave good working environments. Teachers want to be associated with value. They want to see their students grow. So a teacher that applied to your school, they want to work with you, they understand your value, and then suddenly they're resigning or they're unhappy. Something is wrong with your system. If your teachers are always leaving, you need to sit back and ask yourself questions. You as a school board, I'm not talking about just the administrator. What are the policies you have in terms of staff growth, the vision, the career plan you have in place for your teachers? What do you have in place? What does your policy say about it? What kind of support are you giving your teachers? Okay, it's not just about you, the policy, the money you have in the bank, and all that. Can you find out what they have? Why are they leaving? You can't have this movement of teachers consistently, and you think you keep recycling the same process and think it's not you. You are the problem. There is something wrong with your institution that is driving away good teachers that are supposed to grow with you instead of growing with you. And you cannot isolate student performance, good student performance, from staff retention. Because once you have that high turnover of teachers, then quality assurance has a big question mark on it. Because you're grooming these teachers and they are living in such that the speed is so much. How much time do you have to retrain new teachers and get them conversant with your culture and your practices and know the students enough to grow with them and impact them and give them quality. Does that make sense?
Definitely.
So you cannot isolate quality assurance from staff retention. No. If teachers are leaving that much, then your quality assurance, like I said, has a big question mark to it. So if you're not measuring all this when it comes to your rebranding, it's a problem. It's a problem.
Yeah, that's very well said, because uh, I I have talked to multiple schools in India, and when I got deep into them, they were like teachers or staff are not staying, and sometimes reason is that they're not being paid on time, they're not given job security, they are not given any kind of insurance and what all that is required when someone is working, right? So that is a major issue, that staff retention or teacher performance even, because at times they hire teacher who are not really capable of teaching, and just to cover up the space, or
Just to cover up, and quality assurance goes out of the window
that goes
with
out.
those type of, I've actually worked with a number of schools, Komal. I've worked with schools in different countries,
Right.
and it's amazing that they all have almost the same problems. Like, how is it that teachers are just not happy in schools in different parts of the world, from the US to the UK to India to Africa? Like, what is happening? And when you ask them, what is the problem? They give you the answer. They have the answer. You just say something now. Teachers don't have job security. They're not paid on time. Okay, let's be practical.
Mm.
Who stays in a job when they're not paid on time? I need my money. If I don't have job security, I'll be looking for another profession or another career or another school, even, right? So, if this is a problem in the secular world, why won't it be a problem in education?
Mm.
Why wouldn't it be because teachers are committed to changing lives does not mean that not normal human beings with regular problems and bills to pay. So it comes down to the money. I heard school owners make statements like, teachers are never happy. Even if you pay them 2 million a month, they will still never stay. And I said, that's not true. If you pay them 2 million and they refuse to stay, it means that it's not just the money. The work environment is toxic. There is something in the work environment that is pushing them out. So it's either your policy is not in a good place, or the environment is not conducive. Okay, so it's a whole lot of things that come into play when it comes to staff retention.
Yes, that's a big topic that needed to be addressed when it's come to rebranding, or creating
Yes.
a brand out of school, because that's a neglected part. But let's come to a school. Miss Mary, we branding is something that would cost you, right? Branding to brand position your school, whether it's a program or whether it's anything. So how do smaller schools, which are either just started or small in their stature, how would they compete with bigger schools in the same community? So how can they differentiate if they are working in a similar kind of environment or in an area?
Let me say something first. Small schools have no business competing with big schools.
Okay.
There is no competition. Stay in your lane. Okay, that is what I will start with, where I will start from. The journey you are in now is different from the journey of the bigger schools. They started somewhere.
Right.
Okay, they started somewhere. They grew their teacher population, they grew their school population, they remodeled their environment. It's a journey. They've started from A and they moved on to where they are now.
Mm.
You are just starting. Why are you trying to compete with them? Okay, in trying to compete with them, you're putting on unnecessary pressure on your finances, on your mental health, on your school community, because you're going to be expecting your teachers. Remember that as you're starting small, you might not be able to pay the fee, the salary of the bigger schools. And so because of that, you might not be able to get teachers, experienced teachers, or the quality of teachers that these big schools are. And what happens? You try to put the expectation of those big schools on your teachers. You want your teachers to do the things they're doing. They cannot do it. How are they going to do it? They don't have the resources, they don't have the time, they don't have the experience. That is one. You don't have to compete. stay on your lane. Start your journey from where you are. Now, for schools that are in low income areas or smaller schools, everybody is not cut out to serve the same group. Let me start from schools that serve low income communities. The community you serve, the dynamics of that community is different from the dynamics of the other community the other school is serving. The socioeconomic situation of your parents, of your ideal clients, the experiences and the exposure level of your children are different. So it would not be unfair to compare them or try to be like them. I understand you want to provide education that matches up with what the children in the bigger schools are getting. I understand all that. But education is expensive. The results you want, why it might not really vary in terms of curricula. You're trying to make them read, write, have good ambitions, good morals. Those are basic. But when it comes to extracurricular and those exposure, limit yourself to what the parents can pay for or what your environment needs. Okay, there is no need going to bring in robotics. Let me use that to a small farming community you're serving because you think is globalized education, and you can start with chess, right? You can start with basic use of what do you call it, blocks, building blocks, and all. You can actually come up with things they can afford that would also give them that concept why your school is growing. Okay, and also for the smaller schools, look around you. Rebranding, like I said, it's not just about the physical aspects of the aesthetics. It's not just about the physical elements of the school. Rebranding is the inner and the outer part of the school. Okay, aesthetics doesn't have to be expensive. It doesn't have to be very expensive things. I've had schools that they looked around, they got their what do you call it, their sidewalks, they had to color the stones, they had to put sand fill their playgrounds, they had to plant flowers and put some things, some hands-on things children can play with, because that's what they can afford based on the level of their school and what the parents can pay for. You can go online, you can go to YouTube, you can ask questions. What are the manipulatives I can use for the children that are not expensive? Okay. Now, when it comes to your the inside of the school, which I call the core, with the curricula, the extracurricular, the academic work, which is the main thing that you offer in your school, have realistic expectations. If your parents are not buoyant enough, or as a small school, you don't have the provision to present candidates for external international exams, then you don't have to start spending money bringing teachers to do that right now. It doesn't mean you would not do it in the future, no. But at this point, your school cannot afford to pay for those. Besides, the parents are not even interested in it right now because they can't afford it. The parents are just interested in getting their children through basic school and maybe enrolling them in national universities within the country. So there's no need trying to compete with schools that are importing teachers and trying to prepare them for SAT and all those exams. Your parents are not moving abroad. That's not their expectation. So in rebranding, work within the expectations, the desires of the parents you are currently serving. Remember, I said that rebranding is a continuous thing. It changes with the environment, it changes with trends. Maybe where you are in year 1, year 2, year 3, by the time you get to year 4, year 5, your needs would have evolved, your needs would have changed, the parents would have changed, a lot of things would have come into play, and then you move forward and move with that. So work with your growth. And like I said, why are you trying to compete? So let's not use the word competition. You are not competing with everybody or anybody at all. You're only competing with yourself, and you're trying to provide. The main thing why your school is there is to provide, to serve. Okay, serve the people that need you, leave the people that do not need you. And that's why in our program in Call to Teach, when we have each school craft a persona of their ideal clients. So explain to me who you're serving. Are they, is it, what kind of religion are they? What is their socioeconomic rating? What tier in the society are they right now? What is their level of education? What are their finances? We do all those, we draft that. So we get a persona of your ideal client. So that way, when you're speaking, when you're drafting your policy, you know exactly who you are doing it for. Okay. You're not doing it for the lady that has a 7 or 6 income figure per month that lives in so and so environment. No, you're doing this for this so and so person. This is what they need, and this is why I am here to serve them. Of course, it would evolve. Definitely, it would evolve as you're growing. But wait till that time before you start changing. Okay, don't change. Don't think of. I know you make projections. I'm not ruling out projections. No, you can make projections, but live in the moment. Okay, live in the moment. For small schools, live in the moment. Live in your reality, in your present reality. Your present reality is your present client, your present financial situation, your present location, okay, and your present teachers or the teachers you can attract. Live in that reality and then grow with it. Okay, grow with it. Don't go competing with them. You can't compete with them. Their journey is far from yours. They've come a long way. They've had their battles. They've fought their battles. They've had their whipping moments. They've had their successes, their wins, their failures. You are just progressing. You can't just jump to where they are. It would cost you a lot to get there. So that's what I have to tell new schools.
That is very beautifully put across, that schools, whether be it small or big, they do not need to compete, because in
No,
reality, there are every kind of income groups, parents that are living. There are some can afford, some cannot. So you need to find your target audience. So competition is
I'm not saying, and I'm not saying you cannot look at the other schools and try to learn from them. I'm not saying that, but I'm saying that you don't have to copy them. You can look at their ideas and note it down as things you have to do or things you would do if you can afford to do them. That's beautiful. It's okay. But then there is no competition. There's no competition. Live in the moment and work with the resources you have till you get to the point where you can favorably adopt everything, employ anybody, um, everything. Yes.
right, because ultimately we don't know the reality through which that school has become that big. There are chances that they might be in debt. There are chances that they might not be getting as many enrollments as they're showing, or their front picture can be different and the internal can be different. So
Exactly.
people don't consider, when small schools are trying to compete, they are competing it wrongfully. They should consider, okay, if this is my, they initially, the mistake that I feel they make is when they look at a bigger school, they feel, okay, they're like, in Indian terms, I would say in INR, oh, they're charging like 5,000 rupees per month, they're charging 10,000 rupees per month. So let's start with that kind of fees. And when they're branding or when they're marketing, they are making sales for that fact. They would compare them, their pricing or their fees, to that school. That school is doing same thing and we are doing same thing, but we are charging you less and they're charging you more. So at times they compete on that front, and they tend to lose parents or gain parents, because they tend to lose, because when actually a parent goes into that school and a child enrolls, they might not be able to match up to that level, because
Mm-hmm.
because of the resources, right?
Exactly.
So, Miss Mary, we had a really healthy conversation regarding branding, rebranding of schools, how to retain teachers, your stakeholders, and everything. So, last question I would like to ask you is, with this developing world or digital age or whatever we say, how can a school future proof themselves? As you have already mentioned, that rebranding is a complete process that needs to be done. That's why it's rebranding. You have to do it every few years, because everything is moving so fast. So, what are some of the tips that you can give to school owners or administration so that they can future proof their institution?
Okay. Now, future proofing your institution is dependent on you have to rely on data. Okay. It's we say if you cannot look at at what you're doing before, then you wouldn't know where you're migrating to.
No.
Right? So the school is a hydra. It has different heads. Okay. So for you to have a school that that would stand the test of time, a school that would always be visible, a school that would always be relevant to people, first of all, you must be a school that keeps your record. When I'm talking about record, I'm talking about feedbacks from your community, the students, the teachers, and the learners. Now, the students, the teachers, and the parents. This is the only way you would know when you're deviating. That's the only way you would know when you're no longer performing. All right, because you are serving people, and when there's a lot of feedback coming in from them, and you're studying them, you will know when things are changing, and you will change with them. So if a school, when you talk about a school that lasts, be a school that embraces change, a school that is consistently open to change. Okay, change by embracing feedbacks, and then secondly, trends. Trends. I was studying. I was looking at UNESCO projections, and now relating it to what we're doing in rebranding and how it can help schools stand the test of time. There are international bodies that regulate education. They study trends, they do researches that help us as educators, as consultants, know what to do. And we don't have to struggle. We don't have to dabble in things because they've already done the work for us. Now, there are indices, there are trends they've talked about. So you as a school, if you want to be relevant, stay a long time, have high patronage, have people always consider you as valuable, then you're going to look at this trend. I actually noted some of them down. I'm just going to run through it. That is integration of technology into your teaching and learning. I'm going to start from there. Now, in rebranding, I'm going to do it two ways. I'm going to talk about this trend in regards to rebranding and your relevance as a school. If you are thinking of rebranding at all time, like I said, rebranding is a consistent, is a continuous process. So whether you're doing it internally or you're measuring to know when to change things around, you have to look at these trends. And the first one, like I said, is integration of technology. If your school at this point is not looking at technology as a key factor in education, then you are going to move out with the old and the new will replace you. You're going to be replaced with the new. So your rebranding, you have to think about access to education. I was talking about trends in this 2024, and I said in during the COVID, schools went online, schools went into virtual teaching and all that. And after the COVID, a lot of people threw away their recording materials and all that and went back to in class. But if you're going to be a valuable school, a consistent school, that is a school that is consistently known to push out value and trendy, then you have to remember that technology is not going away. It's going to get bigger and more intense. So you have to pay attention to that in your rebranding and in what you're doing. Okay. And global citizenship education. Okay. Now, the world, we're embracing different cultures. We're doing a lot of things. So any education you are, gone are the days when if you're rebranding or you're serving a school, you're just serving a particular people, isolating the others. And in some cultures, like in India, where you have a lot of, when you pick a sample population, the diversity is so much. You know, there's a lot of diversity, the groups in terms of religion, everything. So you cannot be a school that will stand the test of time, that would live long, that will be found as valuable if you do not provide education that embraces different cultures. You have to find a way to be able to bring different people in and speak a language that all of them would understand when they're getting educated. Okay. Now, education for sustainable development. Now, the UNESCO, United Nations, have been talking about this for a while now. It has to be education that addresses environmental issues and promotes sustainable practices in school. Sustainable practices in terms of relatable things that it's not just about, with the way we do algebra and we make jokes and say, we've never seen algebra in real life. Which store, where am I putting algebra to practice? It's a joke we all cry. But now, education has to be something that you bring to life. Okay? Your interpretation of the curriculum has to be. Now, in rebranding, we talk about your curriculum. So if you're adopting a curriculum in your process and you feel, okay, at this point, this is what we need. Everybody's talking about Montessori, British curriculum, American curriculum, Cambridge, and all that. Okay, I agree, they're fantastic. Now, your interpretation of it has to be in line with this trend of sustainable development, education for the sustainable development, education that would enable the people to take charge of the changes in their environment, in their hands, and education that will enable them to create changes within their environs, okay, that will help them replicate what they're learning and utilize it in their day-to-day life. Does that make sense? So, and then I'm talking about digital literacy. I've talked about digital literacy in terms of when I talked about technology. So when you are running a school or you're rebranding or you're making projections for the future, your relevance is dependent on your reliance on these trends. Your reliance on these trends will go a long way to help your school, not just the trends, your reliance on the feedback. You're being in tune with the feedback, the environment you're serving will get a long way in helping you. It will help you better than what people are saying or what you're reading from textbooks or what you're seeing online. The online is good. There's a lot of information online in textbooks by consultants, but if you read them and you're not able to tap into the needs of the people you're serving, then it would not work. It would not work. Let me give you an instance. A school was established in Kenya, and the administrator was telling me something. He said the school had all the facilities. Of course, they had branches. They had a branch in Nigeria and in different parts of the world. So when they came to Kenya, it was like a failure. They weren't getting enough students, even with all the facilities they brought in. Why? Because they forgot the pastoral part of the whole thing. The community they were serving were big on discipline and morality. Okay, they brought in, because the school, the owner of the school, I think the school, their headquarters is in the US. So it was about being liberal, exposure. Okay, so they felt at this is the 21st century, people should understand, embrace other cultures, be able to, it was just about being liberal. Okay, let children make up their mind and do their own thing, let them learn the way they want to learn. But when they came to that community, they forgot that the community, they were not big on their girls being very liberal in their dressing, right? Even the teachers did not buy into that. They forgot that part. That it's not just about education in terms of global learning. They forgot that this community is a small community. Their exposure level is not like that. They're not very open to that level of change. So they could pay for that education, but you can't be telling them, oh, you're not going to discipline your child. You're giving the child the kids a lot of options with regards to their own development. That is not their culture. So forgetting the culture made the school not a success in that community. Does that make sense? So it didn't last long. They closed, the school closed, and they left the community. So for you to be relevant, it doesn't matter the gadgets you have, the training your teachers have, you must tap into the culture, the needs of the people you're going to serve. That way, you can the school would outlive the management and still be a school of quality. Now, I always use Harvard whenever I make my illustrations because I have a program called Roadway to Harvard, and we'll talk about quality. And I said, the people that laid the foundation for Harvard, they are all gone. But every time you talk about Harvard, it's about quality. Why? They've moved over time. I was looking at a program they came up with. I think that was last 2021, online master's program for teachers. And I was like, bravo. Now they're moving with the trends. The school has evolved over time. They still kept the quality of the education they offer. Their policy is still intact. Their vision is still the same, right? But they are evolving with the trends to embrace where the world is now. They're not sticking to the glory of the past. They are evolving their quality to merge with the trends and the current needs of the global environment. So I think that is what the school would consider or look into if they want to be evergreen, relevant, and visible.
Those are extremely good points to keep it relevant, because first point, technology, because it's going to evolve, it's not going anywhere, it's even going to be more difficult with web3 coming
Exactly.
up. And I feel that schools are still struggling. There are major chunk of schools that are still struggling with technology, and slowly they're going out of business because they're not able to incorporate or understand that it's going to be difficult for them, and it is a requirement that they need to. And community story that you share is very much relevant, because not every community is same as India. In every state is different, every state has a different kind of what you call environment. Every parents are different. For example, in Delhi, we'll take parents usually want uh, holistic education, that our kids should learn everything, they should be relevant with everyone. If we go to Punjab side, people, parents are more they want their child to go outside and study abroad, so agencies are there. Teachers and schools are more relevant with ICSC kind of board that's internationally.
Exactly.
So everywhere there's a different kind of culture, and school needs to adapt to that if they want to keep themselves upgraded, and they want to
Relevant.
get the business and stay relevant. So we had an amazing conversation today with Mary, with you.
I really appreciate it. It's really been insightful for me too.
But now after this conversation, we realize that schools and teachers and parents everywhere in the world is same, right? It's just that
Exactly. Like they're not they're not all different. Their needs might be different, but they're still people.
and everywhere education is having similar kind of problems, similar kind of solutions, and everything that needs to be worked. It's just that we need a
Yeah.
person who can guide us through this, who like you yourself has worked with so many schools in different cultures, and very beautifully you have branded a lot of schools, because we did a 10-day rebranding challenge with you, and even the schools
Yes.
participated from India, they have seen results definitely in branding, and we have got really good feedbacks. So
Yes, ma'am.
yes, we did. And for all of you watching, you can follow Miss Mary on Instagram, and also the links are provided in the description, so that you can keep getting her
And
knowledge.
on YouTube too.
Definitely. We'll be sharing all the links in the description regarding her programs and everything. And all her programs are relevant in each and every country. That's for sure, because we have experienced it ourselves. So you can follow her to know more about her programs, or more about getting her insights about rebranding and implementing in your schools. So if you have any question, you can put it in the description, and we'll be happy to answer. Great.
Yes.
So yeah, thank you.